As a thank you for your consistent support, we got something for you, and it's a giveaway. And if you want to be like this cute cat here, all you have to do is follow all the instructions in the description below. Enjoy winning. And in today's video, we are going to talk about the first look at WildRift patch 4.1b. But before we do this, let's talk about a question of the day. What skin is your favorite skin in the game? Let me know in the comments below. The first change might look kinda weird to you guys, and it's a Lee Sin buff. Yes, you've heard it right, the solo queue demon Lee Sin is getting buffed. He's getting a base attack damage buff from 64 to 66. This will promote more play rate for the Lee Sin, because obviously if a champion is getting buffed, you will see him played more often, compared to if a champion is nerfed, he'll obviously be played less. Even though it doesn't matter too much if those things actually are nerfs or real buffs, but it's just a label that's slapped onto champions, and once it happens, they'll automatically become more popular or less popular. The next buff is for Vi. The Vault Breaker cooldown is going down from 12 seconds on level 1 to 10 on level 1, and later it's just an overall 2-second cooldown reduction. This promotes Vi and Vi's pick rate more often. She's already been a solid staple in solo queue or generally as a champion due to her decent clear speed and overall potential to take over games. The next buff on the list is for Xin Zhao. The base damage buffs from 58 to 62 are kinda scary if you also consider that this champion is a heavy bruiser that wants to fight, similar to Lee Sin. Another change is to his Audacious Charge, his third ability, and the cooldown goes down from 12 seconds to 11 seconds. Given the right champion drafts, this champion was already good as it was, and he will now take over solo queue similar to Lee Sin in that manner. They're promoting heavy bruiser buffs in the jungle role, which makes it more difficult for enemies to survive the early game. Because all of those champions so far feature a decent or really great early game, while also having insane ability to buy broken items in the current patch. The next change is to a champion that we don't see that often, it's Tryndamere. The base attack damage goes up from 52 to 54, and his first ability's Bloodlust based health regeneration goes up by 15 across all ranks. This makes him a little bit stronger, because don't forget, Tryndamere in a meta where people become more tankier isn't as good, because this champion hyper focuses on aggressiveness and he doesn't want to invest into defenses, because he wants to go in and utilize his ultimate ability to survive for extra seconds and then run down people. If people become more tankier, he really doesn't like that, because he doesn't get as much value from getting tankier, because it's kinda against the idea or the theme of Tryndamere. Now let's move over to the champion nerfs, and here we have Rakan. Rakan has been a menace if he was played full AP, and he did too much damage, and we can all agree this champion needed a change. In what form is always up to debate, but Riot found an interesting way of approaching this. Rakan's base damage is going down from 64 to 58, the Grand Entrance cooldown is going up in the later stages of the game, up like 3 seconds, the damage goes down in the sense of base damage and scaling, and his shield ability's ability power scaling is also going down. The goal of this is to incentivize a more tanky approach to Rakan and not a full AP carry Rakan. Realistically speaking though, it's not going to change too much, because in solo queue, playing full tank Rakan is absolutely painful. And even though you deal substantially less damage now, you'll probably outperform the tank Rakan by a lot, because you cannot really depend on your teammates. Not to forget though, it's not a straight up laning nerf for him in terms of ability changes, but rather a nerf a nerf from his base attack damage. Because losing 6 base damage in a situation where bone plating is mostly used and your champion wants to go in is kinda troublesome for your champion. So this basically shifts the power more towards a level 3 or level 5 all in, and otherwise you will not have a great time during the laning phase. The next change is kind of a weird change that is probably not going to do too much, and it's Zoe. First, the Petal Star base damage goes down by 5 across all ranks, and the damage increase ratio with champion level also goes down by 3 on level 1 and 3 as in the later stages of the game. Next up comes Sleepy Trouble Bubble base damage changes by -10, and also the true damage cap goes down by -10. Well, now we have one problem. You see, those numbers look kinda okay and interesting, but if we're honest, Zoe usually kills you from 100 to 0 if she's slightly fat, and even if she's not really fat, she'll deal 70% of your HP bar with a combo. And if she hits you once, and then hits you again, you will die the second time. And those changes to the ability based damage and just overall the champion damage will not be enough. She will still be able to, if not fat, kill you in 2 rotations, and if she's fat, she'll still kill you in 1 rotation. So it just looks like a nerf that promotes that she's not going to be played so much anymore because the label nerf is slapped on top of her. But nothing too much is going to happen to Zoe with this kind of nerf. The next champion on the nerf radar is Aatrox, and here we have the Darked Blades cooldown nerf. It basically is an early game buff, but a late game nerf by 1 second of a cooldown. This obviously is not going to do too much since Aatrox is investing a lot into ability haste, and most of the time it will not be the difference in terms of rotations. If he tags you into the later stages of the game with his abilities, you'll most likely die anyway if he hits it with the sweet spots, and the slight cooldown change will not do too much. And this champion is a snowball champion, so if we are truly honest, it's just smoke and mirrors and not much will happen with this change. But finally something is happening with runes, and it's the resolve tree. Something needed to change and something is changing. And first we'll talk about buffs. The resolve tree's second wind is getting a major buff. The flat healing after taking damage is basically doubled from 3 to 6. Now you have to keep in mind that this rune's effectiveness is doubled for melee champions. So in the past it was 3 to 6 and now it's 6 to 12, which is a major difference, which makes this rune very powerful, especially if you take the next change into consideration. Bone plating is finally getting a nerf. It's not the nerf we kinda want and need, but it's regardless a nerf. The damage mitigation goes down from 35 to 30, so it's basically a -5 per bone plating charge, which then, if you happen to block 3 damage spells with it, or 3 kind of instances of damage, it'll be 15 damage that you'll take more in comparison to before. This, however, still doesn't change the fundamental fact that this rune is still broken. It still reduces the damage that procs the shield, and therefore making poking substantially less powerful, given the fact that most of the champions run area that poke, or any of those bonus item effects, which will then be mitigated by just the bone plating alone. Interestingly though, is that we haven't seen any changes to conditioning or any of the other runes, which is kinda weird because the resolve tree really needs adjustments, because bone plating is just too powerful. Even though they nerfed this patch, it's still going to be crazy strong, and second wind more of a niche rune, depending on certain matchups. For Pyke we have the following adjustments. He is basically getting tankier for the cost of wave clear. And also the gold he's sharing or getting for a kill that is shared is getting increased. So what do they want to do with these changes? They want to push Pyke more into a supportive position and not want him to be too strong when it comes to laning. As you see, it only mentions minions and not monsters that are getting like the damage reduced from his third ability. So they still want him in the jungle, but not in the mid lane, because apparently the gameplay is too toxic for mid lane. Because you just clear wave and just roam and roam and roam and kill people, and that is something they apparently don't want to promote. The next adjustment is for this lovely doge, it's Narcissus. The base attack damage goes up from 64 to 66, the Siphoning Strike first base damage also goes up by 5 across the ranks, and the adjustment towards his ultimate ability is an interesting one. They are focusing on making him more durable in the early game, but removing resistances later on. In the early game, on rank 1 of your ultimate ability, you gain plus 15 resistances, but in the late game you lose those 15 resistances. So they want to give you more power in the laning phase and make sure you get to the later point in the game more easier, or easier in general, to then utilize the lead you've gotten prior to this to be powerful enough to mitigate the loss of those 15 resistances. The last adjustment for this patch is for Dr. Mundo. His passive ability is getting a change. Goes where he pleases, loss of current health when being immobilized goes down from 7% to 3%. Goes where he pleases, restore Dr. Mundo's health when picking up a chemical canister is going down from 8% to 4%. Another change comes to his ultimate ability maximum dosage. The health gained is going up by 10% of the missing health across all ranks, but on the flip side, the health regeneration is going down by 5% of the maximum health. What they're trying to do with this is making Mundo a stronger laner in the early to mid game. They are basically giving him more health regeneration with the health gain from the missing health, and taking back a little bit of the regeneration. So yet again, similar to Narcissus, they want to make him stronger in the early stages to make up for maybe potential weaknesses in the later stages of the game. Or rather, if you think about it in a different way, you have scaling tank or scaling champions, and they want to make them a little bit stronger in the early game so they can scale safely into the later stages of the game. Like, think about a Kayle that is absolutely weak during the laning phase and gets beaten up by pretty much everything in the game. Imagine them buffing Kayle to give her an easier time to scale to the later stages of the game. That's what they're basically trying to do with this. And that's it for today's video. If you liked the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget about the giveaway, by the way. Check out the links below, and see you next time.